Thanks for tuning in to No Wine in No Time. I'm your host Dave, and today we're talking about the most important white wine varietal in Hungary. And that's a grape that's used to make the epic Tokaj wine. Now, this grape's name is Furment. And Furment has a long and storied history in the area. And that area is from Hungary all the way through Eastern Europe and into the former Soviet republics. Now, how did it make its way into Hungary, and why is it so important in the Tokaj area and the wines that emanate from there? Well, back in the 13th century, the Mongolians had run through what is now modern-day Hungary and destroyed the vineyards and all the history that was there. And King Bela IV, in an effort to reinvigorate the viticulture in that area, had reached out to other leaders in Eastern Europe and had asked for vines to be brought in. And Furment was one of the vines that not only was brought in, but reproduced and did exceptionally well in that area. Now, Furment itself produces a wine that actually can go in two different directions depending on the hand of the winemaker. Both wines are called Tokaj, but both wines are distinctively different. So the first one is the one that we're actually going to taste here in a few moments, and that is the dry version of the Furment Tokaj. The second one is the one that's the sweet dessert wine. This is one that can age for decades and really gets more and more beautiful as it goes. It gets more concentrated and syrupy. Now, how do we arrive at those two different styles of wine? Let's look at the Furment grape itself. So Furment buds early but ripens late, and the Furment grape produces very loose clusters of berries. Now, it's very important when you think about very loose. So as we take these two different paths, we'll see why that's important. So once the grapes are ripe, in other words, the sugar content is where we want it to be, we can remove the grapes and produce a dry style wine. If we want to produce the sweet dessert style wine, what we do is we leave those grapes hang on the vines for months past ripeness. And what we're looking to do, especially in the Tokaj area, there's a fog that appears across the vineyards in the fall. That fog allows a fungus by the name of Botrytis cinerea to appear on the grapes. And I know it sounds kind of strange that a fungus would be important to the making of a dessert wine, but what that fungus does is it takes and it desiccates the grapes. By desiccation, we mean removes the water. So what's left behind is sugar and acidity, and that concentrates the flavors. Then, of course, those grapes are harvested late and used to produce that sweet dessert wine. It's not at all drastically different from ice wine and some of the other late harvest wines from the world that we've covered in other No Wine in No Time videos. But now let's get back to the dry version. And if you're ever in doubt, if you look at a Tokaj Furment wine in one of your local wine stores, always remember the saying, high and dry and sweet and low. If the alcohol content on the bottle is higher, then it's going to be a dry wine. If it's lower, it's going to be a sweeter wine. This one that we're about to taste is 13% alcohol by volume. So we know right away that that is a dry version of Furment Tokaj. So let's go ahead and get to it, and let's take a look at it. This particular one is from a vintner by the name of Oramus, and it's their Mandalay Furment, and the vintage on this one is 2017. So when we look at the wine, the first thing that we notice is it has an actual kind of gold or wheaty color. And it's interesting because the name Furment actually comes from the root in Hungarian of froment, which actually means wheat. So if we swirl to liberate some of the aromas, what leaps out of the glass is a little bit of lemongrass and actually just a little bit of smoke around the edges. Now let's go ahead and taste the wine. When this ferment passes the palate, we get an explosion of flavor, which is everything from lemon to green apple. So it invokes a little bit of tartness in the wine, and that would be correct because it has a higher acid content. But it also has a high glycerin content. So as it hangs around the mid-palate, we actually taste things like just a slight bit of ginger. And I know this will sound odd, it almost has a peppercini type of finish. And peppercini, you're saying, Dave, that's crazy. That's like a little hot pepper. It does. It has a little tang to it on the back side of the palate. Very complex, very interesting, and quite delicious. So this is something that would pair very, very well with Asian dishes. So everything from, let's say, sushi to actually some pork dumplings. So here's your mission. Go out and try to find a dry version of Ferment Tokai in your local wine store. I really think you're going to like it. And I'm going to get back and enjoy a little bit more. So please come back next time, because soon you'll know wine in no time.